I'm Dawn Esparza, and I'd like to share with you some tips and tricks for taking great nail fees. I'm a perfectionist with an eye for design and beauty, but I do have a critical eye. I tend to notice a lot of details. Great pictures are a passion of mine, whether it's of landscape, family, food, manicures and pedicures. Photo composition matters a lot, especially to corporations. They use photos in advertising, marketing. GelMoment uses them in contests and everything that we do. Some of the photos we submit to corporate are great, while others might need a little bit of tweaking and fine-tuning to be used. I'm not a professional photographer, and no one needs to be in order to take quality photos. I'm excited to share my personal tricks for taking great manicure and pedicure photos with you. As we work through the tips, I'll be showing photos as a visual example. I used photos of my own, as well as from my two sisters, my mom, and my daughter, so thanks to them for providing material for me. It was a great family project. First, we'll talk about photo setup. We need to pay attention to our background composition. Make sure that you tidy the area first. Less is always more when it comes to nail photos. Pay attention to the color and pattern of your background. A neutral background is great, but it doesn't necessarily have to be white. Pay attention to the pattern directions in relation to your hand if you're taking photos with, say, wood flooring or a deck in the background. Here are some excellent backdrop ideas. Stone and tile, sky, water, wood, grass, bushes, and trees are all found in nature. Hard floors, fences, decks, neutral paint, these can be found in your home. You could also take photos with a sleeve, bedding, textured fabric, or use products like the GelMoment nail art mat and product groupings from the skincare line, the nail care line, or lamps, anything. Remember that high contrast is your friend. Make your hand pop rather than just blend into the background. Or keep the background white or a solid color to make the actual nails pop. Never let your background be so busy or colorful that it overshadows your manicure. An example would be if you have a lot of color in your background but have a neutral manicure, your neutral nails are going to get lost in the background. Try to coordinate your nails with your background. Next, make sure that you scrutinize your photo. Pay attention to everything in the background and on your hand. Look for things like fuzz, markings, or even dust, and if you see it, clean it up. Sometimes we might have cuts, chips, or even polish bubbles or smudges on our nails. You can always work the camera, the lighting, and hand angles to hide them or use the props to hide. Just because you might have one or two things wrong with your manicure or with your fingers doesn't mean you can't take a good photo. It just requires a little bit of creativity. Make sure to move or cover clutter in the background, or you can angle the camera or crop the photo to cut it out completely. Let's look at some examples. In the first photo, you can see that the background is not tidy. There's clutter in the background that could have been moved. In the second picture, you see random house parts like a door hinge and tattered paint. In the third photo, it also has some random house items, but more importantly, it has stark shadows across the floor, which just creates a cluttered look. Here are some examples of how pattern direction can work for you or against you. In the first picture, the wood slats are parallel with the fingers, and it just kind of gives a one-note feel to the picture. In the second picture, the deck has been put at an angle with the hands, and it creates interest and contrast without taking over as the point of the picture. Here are some examples of busy backgrounds. In the first one, it's just a smooth granite countertop, but the pattern is far too busy. Also, in the second picture, there are GelMoment products there, but they fade into the background and they're not even featured at all. Here's a background comparison that shows that sometimes beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Both of these photos are good, but you can see how the background of the first, with a painting, distracts from the product and the nails, even though it coordinates and is well framed. Either of these pictures could be used with different applications because they are both good, but one of them, the one on the right, features the nails and the product a bit better. Now let's talk about lighting. When you are taking photos, make sure that you do not use a flash. It washes out the color of the nails and the skin and can create too much contrast and shadow. Also, pay attention to any glare on your nails, particularly if you're featuring nail art. You don't want to hide what you've worked hard on with glare. Please make sure that you take your pictures in daylight. It's worth the wait. If you've done a manicure or pedicure in the evening, when your kids are in bed or you're off of work, you can take a picture and share it with friends and family. But if you want your photo to be submitted to corporate, or you want to use it in your own advertising, please make sure to wait until it's daytime. Indirect natural light is the best way to take photos. You can sometimes use direct sunlight if you want to show color variation of the polish, or even do a split photo. I'll show you an example in a minute. Try not to use filters as a rule. Let corporate do the work of editing photos as they need to. However, sometimes a cream filter on your phone camera can help with color accuracy. Here are some examples. These two photos show dim lighting. It's a poor representation of the color of the polish in the skin, and it also creates a blurry, sometimes pixelated look to the photos. Here are two examples of direct and indirect daylight. Both of these photos were taken indoors. The first one was taken in straight sun with a white background, believe it or not. The other photo is in indirect natural light from a window against a contrasting but coordinating color. You can see how direct sunlight causes a stark contrast and detracts from the manicure itself, while indirect light really makes the color pop and provides accurate, clear lines. Here are two photos showing how you can show split light for variation in the polish color. It's great to show customers how some of our colors change based upon the amount of light the nails are in. You can do it either with an inset, as the first picture shows, or position your hand so that half of your nails are in direct sun and half of your nails are in shadow. Now we need to work it, meaning the camera. Pay attention to the proper angle. Don't angle toward the base of your palm. And make sure that your lens is straight on or angled towards the nails themselves. This puts the nails as the focus of the picture rather than any part of your hand. Use a tripod if possible. When you use a tripod, there's less movement, and the movement is what causes blurring in pictures. Also, by using a tripod and not somebody else's help, it can cause less frustration with others who may not be as patient in finding just the perfect photo. Also, using a tripod can let you photograph both of your hands at once to showcase your full manicure. Pay attention to the focus of your camera. Make sure that you touch the screen or fix your camera to focus on the nails and your hand rather than anything else in the photo. When you do take photos, make sure that you do not use blurry pictures in your own advertising or to submit to corporate. A tip is to hold your breath just before you take the picture. This can help steady your arms and hands to create less blur. If your camera has a selective focus feature, try it out. It creates awesome pictures. Another tip is to take several photos at once. Then you can pick the one that has the most clarity for your own use and to submit to corporate. You can vary the distance of the same pose, vary the angle of the same pose, and you can vary the background and props of the same manicure. Give yourself lots to choose from. The more photos you take, the more success you'll have. Let's look at some examples. These photos show improper and proper angles of the lens compared to the hand. In the first photo, you can see that the angle is more towards the palm than the fingers, and it creates really improper, distorted proportions. The second and third photos show that the nails are straight on with the camera lens and create proper proportions. This keeps the nails the focus of the photo. These photos show improper and proper palm angle. In the first photo, the palm takes over because it has been angled more towards the camera than the nails. Therefore, the nails are shadowed and hidden. In the second and third photos, you can see that the fingers are relaxed and they're more pointed towards the camera than the palm is. When you're taking a picture, pretend that you have an invisible small object in your hand. Make sure that your forearm is parallel or angled away from the camera. It can feel a bit awkward physically, but it produces photos that show off a great manicure. Now let's talk about the subject of the photos, your hand. The best photos start with a quality manicure. Practice, practice, practice makes perfect. Make sure that your manicure doesn't have bubbles or chips. Make sure that your cuticles are healthy and clean, and make sure the sides of your nails and your cuticle are free from polish. Also, make sure that you filed the tips of your nails into a nice shape. We absolutely want to make sure that our manicures are the greatest that they can be in order to have the best pictures for our own advertising and also so that corporate can use them. My biggest tip for photos of your manicure is to relax your hand. Make sure that you don't have an ape hand. I'll show you what I mean in a moment. With your hand position, make sure that it has a forward tilt to put your fingers in the foreground of the picture. Float your hand just above the surface of a backdrop or loosely hold a prop. This prevents the base of the palm from protruding into the foreground, or your fingers from looking distorted. Speaking of your fingers, separate them a little bit. Slightly curl them to create a slimming effect and to set off the nails. It will also help you have proper nail angle in relation to the camera. Here are some examples of what I mean by ape hands. When you squish your hands together, your fingers can look fat and squished. They can be elongated. It can also be said that it looks like a cramped sign language E. Make sure that your fingers, as the last photo show, are slightly separated, relaxed, and in a neutral position. This really lets the nails be the focus of the photo rather than an awkward ape hand. Let's talk about the thumb. Leave it out of the picture unless it's a major part of your manicure. If you do include the thumb, cover your palm with fabric or a sleeve, or hold on to something that covers your palm, but if you do, make sure that you're loosely holding it for a relaxed look. Use a tripod to take a photo of both hands. You can use a thumb from one hand with fingers of the other. Here are some photo examples where the thumb is included. Rather than do a cramped sign language E or an ape hand, just leave your thumb relaxed and natural. Or you can hold something loosely as the last picture shows. This creates a very natural look to your hand while still showing off a great manicure. Here are some photos showing both hands. There are multiple ways to position your hands that include the thumbs, nail art, or just great solid color photos. Make sure to remove jewelry, hair ties, and watches that you don't want in the photos a few minutes before taking. This will allow any indentations in your skin to reduce before you take the photo. Let's talk about props. Make sure that you don't overload your hand with something too large or try to hold multiple polish bottles at one time. Hold your props loosely with fingers separated. Make sure the props themselves are in good condition, especially if they're GelMoment products. Always put the best face forward. As with the background, make sure your prop doesn't overwhelm your manicure. Try to coordinate the colors and themes if you can. For example, if you have a solid manicure, try a plaid scarf as a prop. If you have a patterned manicure, use a solid color coffee cup as a prop. Here are some examples. In the first photo, you can see that it's improper holding and damage of a product. It's held too tightly and creates a cramped look, and the angle of the camera shows more of the palm than it does the fingers. Also, the product itself has a damaged cap. In the second photo, the prop is held loosely and the fingers are separated and relaxed. Also, there's a correct angle of the arm and the palm in relation to the lens, so it really sets off the nails and the product rather than looking like an awkward photo. My second biggest tip is to moisturize, moisturize, moisturize. Use a cuticle serum or a nail oil, which quickly absorb, and rub it into your cuticles and the sides of the nail bed. Be sure that there's no shine left, otherwise your fingers will look oily, which detracts from a professional looking photo. Use Plume or Aurora for your hands. Are you in a pinch and you have to snap the perfect photo because you're in the right place at the right time? Well, wet your cuticles somehow. Use a wipey, use water, or lick your fingers if you have to. Here are some photo examples. In the first photo, we can see that the cuticles are dry. The actual photo composition is great. The nails are at the foreground, the lighting is great, but unfortunately, the cuticles are dry. In the second photo, it might be hard to tell, but there is shiny skin around the cuticles. It's not natural looking and detracts from healthy nail look. Now let's talk about pedicures. Most of the tips discussed also apply to pedicures. But remember, the best photos start with a quality pedicure. Here are a few tips. Your feet on the ground are okay, but they'll look a bit more slim if you rest them on your heels or if you prop them up somehow. Make sure you angle the camera towards the nails rather than down from the ankle. Make sure the nails are the focus of the picture rather than your feet. Use fabric, sand, or other props to cover most of the feet to accentuate the toes if you wish. Now, if you're a bit on the hobbit side, it's perfectly acceptable to shave your toes and your feet. But if you do, be careful. We want to make sure that there are no cuts or stubble in our pedicure photos. As with manicures, moisturize, moisturize, moisturize. Use the cuticle serum or nail oil to moisturize your cuticles on your toes, and also use lotion on the tops of your feet for soft skin. If you have dry skin, using a clips first would be a great idea, followed by lotion, and then either the serum or the nail oil. Pay attention to your toe position. If your toes curl under a bit, which is normal, prop your feet against something, or if you're standing, use your fingers to uncurl your toes before taking a picture. Make sure that your toes are relaxed and separated if possible. Above all, don't be afraid to photograph your feet. Our feet have so many stories to tell, and they are a gift no matter what size or how toes are shaped. Here are some examples of feet pictures. In the first photo of Lady in a Dress, you can see that the cuticles are dry, and there's quite a bit of foot that distracts from the nails. In the picture with Champagne Toast and Beauty Queen, you can see that a hand is used to cover most of the foot. This not only showcases two colors, but it also provides a good manicure and pedicure picture. In the photo with Sensationelle, most of the feet have been cropped out to put the focus on the toenail polish itself. You can even coordinate the background with your nail art. Taking quality photos will only serve to excite both yourself and your customers about GelMoment products. Be creative with what you do in your photos, but also make sure that you have a critical eye. The better your photos are, the more corporate is able to use them, and the better your own advertising will be. Consider it a challenge to yourself to create great-looking photos. Have fun taking photos and sharing them, and be sure to enter them into contests. Enjoy watching your own progress as you continue your GelMoment journey.